My name is Brian Abbott, and I'm the founder of 310Antiques.com. So we're going to talk about watches now. Some of the different aspects about what makes a watch valuable, I guess, would be a good one to go over. And let's start with pocket watches. Some people have pocket watches. Some people maybe inherit groups of pocket watches. I've certainly seen groups of pocket watches into the hundreds from individuals. Perhaps somebody collected in a previous generation and they end up inheriting lots and lots of pocket watches. There are different things that add value to a pocket watch. As you would imagine, the manufacturer has something to do with it. A pocket watch by a famous manufacturer such as Vacheron Constantin or Patek Philippe, they're going to tend to bring stronger money. A Lang & Son, a company like that, will bring stronger money. And one of the other factors in pocket watches that causes them to be valuable is how complicated the movement is. The movement is the mechanical workings within the watch. And so when a movement is complicated, it means that, as you can imagine, they're complicated to begin with. They're a piece of machinery. But as you begin to add things, like a second hand, or a calendar function, like a day or a month function, those require additional mechanics on the inside. And so you're talking about a more complicated machinery. If you get into a moon phase or a split second it just sort of goes on and on. But as you add different complications to a watch, the value goes up. So certainly a best case scenario would be to have a famous maker watch such as Patek Philippe, and then to have it be very complicated. Well, those are pretty rare and can be extremely valuable. Most people have fairly plain pocket watches. So the question, probably one of the first questions is the case gold or not? And that's a complicated question to answer. You need a professional to help you with that. Lots of them appear gold, as both of these do, but the watch on the left is gold, the watch on the right is in fact plated. But they're a heavy gold plate, and so the appearance in terms of color is really quite similar. So that's your first thing that you look at. The next thing you look at is the manufacturer, and most pocket watches that are, let's say, American from the era of the 1880s through the 1930s. There's a handful of manufacturers that made most watches. Elgin, for instance, American Waltham, Howard is a fairly sought-after maker. So you determine who the maker of the watch is. Then you need to look at the actual movement. And I don't recommend doing this. I recommend you having a dealer do this so that the right tools are used and you don't damage the watch. This is a watch case opener. So I'm going to open the back of this particular watch. I'm going to try to. There we go. So that's the dust cover, and it's open. Now inside the case I can read that it's 18 karat. You can see two little holes through the back of this case, and those are for winding and setting the watch. So this is a key set and a key wind watch. That's what they're referred to. This watch is a hinge case, so it's going to swing out. So I've opened the front now, and there's a little lever that you press there, and then it opens up, and you can see more of the interior of the watch in the watch case. And again, it's another dust cover here. So this is how you go about locating the movement of the watch, and that will tell you how complicated it is. I need to go through another step or two to get the back of this off, but once I did, it would tell me a lot about the watch and about the mechanics of the watch. I'm going to set that down. Here's another one that I can try to get the back off of. Let's see. There we go. So pop the back off of that watch, and here you can actually see the mechanics of the watch quite clearly. All the little gears and the springs. Okay, now generally written on the movement in here, you'll have the manufacturer's name. You might have the name of the model. Sometimes they'd give names to the model of the movement. But more importantly, for kind of quick identification purposes and in determining how complicated your watch is, will be the number of jewels. Well, they actually used jewels on the pivot points inside of a watch like this. So you'd have a steel rod that goes up and down, and you would have a diamond or a ruby on either side of that pin, so that as the pin turns, the diamond and the ruby are harder than steel. So as the steel pin turns back and forth over the course of the lifetime of the watch, it's not going to wear on the ruby or diamond little pinion point. So that's why they're in there. So the more jewels you have, a lot of watches are 12 to 17 jewels. You get into 18, 19, 21, 25 jewels. It becomes a more complicated watch, and therefore less common, and therefore more highly collectible. And that's what you're shooting for. You're looking for a high jewel movement in watches.